for him to try and stop that Magnezone from dishing out all the damage with its Thunderbolts.
Yeah, Togedemaru also resists a lot of damage from Alex's side of the field, but a Pokemon that is heavily threatened in this final. Alolan Ninetales might not be making an appearance for Simone.
I'm not sure how often he has even brought it. I don't think I've seen him use it in the couple of games that I was able to follow. And then for Alex, one of the key combinations of his team that gave him great success in yesterday's play, but that we didn't see come out today, is that Mimikyu and the Snorlax. It's going to be very, very important for Simone to try and check that combination, because if you let that set off, if the Snorlax is able to get the belly drum boost, Mimikyu sets up the Trick Room, then there's nothing really you can do to stop that from happening. So Simone might need to rely on his two steel types a little bit. The Togedemaru with the options to go for Fake Out and Encore to try and disrupt a little bit, and then the Celesteela, of course, just being so bulky with Leech Seed and also having Heavy Slam to hit the Mimikyu super effectively.
This could be anyone's game. Both trainers have so many options to try and disrupt and overpower and outmuscle their opponent. Both trainers are almost ready here in the finals of the Pokemon 2018 European International Championships in the Masters Division. Simone Sanvito of Italy, Alex Gomez of Spain. Please let us know using the hashtag #PlayPokemon who you want to win in this encounter.
Yeah, it's going to be such a good game. By the way, something we haven't really touched upon is the fact that in Simone's team, he's using 2 Steel-type Pokemon. Now, usually it might seem as if you do not want to have Pokemon of the same type. And oh, there's the Ninetales, by the way. So anyway, with the 2 steel types, he's able to kind of divide the job between the two. So you have the Celesteela that can take on the Mimikyu and the Snorlax, but then you also have the Togedemaru. So depending on the matchup, sometimes it can really help to have the same type twice.
This is a really interesting set of leads out here. We have the Alolan Ninetales and the Garchomp, Arcanine and Nihilego for Alex Gomez. And we've seen before, Alex Gomez has access to that Helping Hand, to that Hidden Power Ice. Garchomp heavily threatened here, but also Ninetales heavily threatened by a Sludge Bomb from that Nihilego. If Ninetales goes for an Aurora Veil, Garchomp might be able to survive a combination of the Helping Hand and the Hidden Power Ice, but there is so much damage being threatened from Alex's side of the field.
Yeah, very interesting seeing that the Ninetales is making an appearance. Of course, it might help against that Nihilego's Focus Sash with a Hail that it just set up, and might help Garchomp a little bit. Of course, one option would be to go for the Aurora Veil, and then it's interesting how the damage calculation works out, whether that Nihilego is able to get that KO on the Garchomp, as I think that some players also try to train their Garchomp a little bit defensively, and this might be something that Simone has incorporated in his play. But first of all, we're seeing that Helping Hand. Alex looking to make a big play at turn 1.
So applause from the Arcanine as the Protect comes out from the Garchomp. If this is a Hidden Power Ice, it will be going into that Protect. We see the Aurora Veil coming out from this Alolan Ninetales. It will be boosting defense and special defense. Nihilego, go for the Sludge Bomb.
There's the Sludge Bomb, calling the Protect correctly, and bringing the Ninetales down to only 9 HP remaining. So it will be around, but of course that Arcanine potentially, if it has access to extreme speed, could easily pick up that target. However, now with the Aurora Veil, Simone's team a little bit more bulky, meaning that, yeah, Alex really needs to think about twice whether he can remove that Garchomp from play with just a single Hidden Power Ice.
Yes, and Alex Gomez putting a lot of pressure on Simone from the very first turn. We're revealing that Hidden Power Ice. Sorry, not revealing the Hidden Power Ice, revealing the Helping Hand, going to Sludge Bomb, going into that Ninetales. Ninetales heavily threatened once again. Garchomp, though, is intimidated, so it might need to try and boost its stats if it can, or switch out to make use of it later on in the match.
Yeah, one option that Simone's Ninetales might have could be Encore, by the way, because if Alex's Arcanine either doesn't go for that extreme speed or decides to predict Simone's move, locking that Nihilego into Sludge Bomb would really, really help out the Garchomp. And there we do see the Encore. It is going into Arcanine though, so we'll make it so that Arcanine has to use Helping Hand now. Of course, there's nothing it can really help. And the Garchomp revealing its Z move, it's going to be a Tectonic Rage coming out from Simone here. No matter which target he picked, it certainly will do a lot of damage.
Yeah, Garchomp at one stage of decreased physical attack, but this Tectonic Rage will be doing a massive amount of damage going into that Snorlax. He was hoping to take that Nihilego down here, but instead getting the Snorlax on the switch in. It will be doing a nice chunk of damage, not taking it down below half though, doing around a third there as the Helping Hand comes out from that Arcanine. Unfortunate turn for Alex getting that encore there.
Yeah, but I think the Snorlax definitely a pretty good switch in here. Interesting choice here. This time around he's bringing the Snorlax in the back. Could indicate that there might be the Mimikyu as his fourth Pokemon. It's not something that I've seen Alex do, but of course the Snorlax very, very threatening. Now on Simone's play, it's also interesting to note that he did not really care about the Nihilego, so maybe he was expecting a Protect and wanted to hit the Nihilego with Tectonic Rage through that Protect, which of course decreases the power significantly, but due to the fact that it's 4 times super effective, still would have done a lot of damage. But now the Snorlax ate up the Z move kinda well, can then eat on its berry in a few turns if the hail damage keeps ticking on it. And yeah, Simone might also want to try and switch out that Garchomp at some point, as you were saying. The Intimidate still playing a role there.
And Snorlax coming in for Alex could be an indication that he does want to get the boosts up to deal with this Aurora Veil. He's going to bring out his own Arcanine in favor of that Mimikyu. Ninetales could be throwing out a Blizzard here, hitting both targets due to being in the Hail Special condition. And we see the Disguise busting on that Mimikyu on the switch in. Snorlax going down into the yellow HP and popping a Berry there. So Snorlax will be able to get 50% of its HP back due to its Gluttony ability, boosting it all the way up with that Iapapa Berry.
And the Sword Stance coming out.
Very nice.
So by the way, one thing I wanted to stress here, while we see what the Snorlax is going to do, is probably going to be either, actually just going on the offensive, hitting the Garchomp for a little bit of damage. But what is interesting here, that Ninetales, just think about how much work it was able to do after surviving that clutch, helping hand-boosted Sludge Bomb from the Nihilego. So yeah, that Ninetales really, we might have underestimated it a little bit, but yeah, playing a very, very key role here in this first game so far.
Interesting to see it survive that through the Aurora Veil. This could be an indication of how the Pokemon has been trained, and could be an indication of its item as well. So a lot of the bulkier Ninetales might be running that Light Clay. We'll have to see how long this Aurora Veil lasts here, but with Garchomp boosted up now, maybe Simone wants to retreat that Ninetales to save the Hail for later on in the match, bring in a Celesteela and get an Earthquake off here.
Yeah, and that Aurora Veil really helps that Garchomp. We have seen how little damage the return from Snorlax did, and it'll be difficult for Alex to really knock out this Garchomp that has already boosted its attack stat. So yeah, with another Earthquake and maybe the Ninetales switching into Celesteela, Simone could be in a very, very solid position.
So we are going to see a switch out. It's on Alex's side though. Arcanine coming in, trying to get rid of the boost from this Swords Dance on the Garchomp. Garchomp now back down to neutral attack stat due to it being at -1 before it getting the Swords Dance up. Another Blizzard coming out from this Alolan Ninetales. It's going to go into that Mimikyu, doing a nice chunk of damage. Arcanine resisting it, obviously.
Ooh, there is the Earthquake. So
interesting turn.
Yeah, Simone will knock out his own Ninetales in the process, but Blizzard, wow! Getting the KO on Arcanine and doing so much damage to the Mimikyu as well. Wow. Yeah, very, very important turn for Simone. So he is knocking out his own Ninetales, but really didn't want to switch out because he was probably seeing how Ninetales could really do too much damage anyway, but also needed that chip damage on the Arcanine for the KO potentially. Now we have seen Trick Room being set up and Mimikyu barely making it through this turn, and yeah, is still around, but Alex, he has the Trick Room set up now, but his Snorlax really has to carry for him.
Yes, and Snorlax does not have any boosts at the moment. We've seen how little damage it does to that Garchomp with its returns without the boost. Tapu Fini coming in as well. Large amounts of spread damage coming out from Simone. I believe we've already seen it's holding that Choice Specs item earlier on in some of his top 4 games. And Snorlax in a position where it's got a lot of damage coming its way this turn. It might just want to recycle here. Mimikyu in a position where it will have to probably just go down here. There's not much it can do.
Yeah, there's not really too much Mimikyu could do. It doesn't have any options to heal. And we're still seeing Aurora Veil playing such an important role here. And Snorlax, it would need 3 things this turn. It would need to recycle, belly drum, and then also attack. So Alex really, well, doesn't have the time to do all of that at the same time, obviously. But Simone's Pokemon in a prime position, the Garchomp, even after those Intimidates, thanks to the Sword Dance, still sitting there strong. The Tapu Fini just hitting the field, can dish out a lot of damage, potentially knocking out the Mimikyu right here, as Snorlax is going for the recycle.
Smart recycle from this Snorlax, just to make sure it's got enough health to be able to last.
And Haze coming out, interestingly enough.
Really, really good reveal from Simone here, saying even if you get the belly drum up later on, there is not anything that you can do here. We see the Ghostium Z activate from Alex's side of the field. He has revealed Destiny Bond before.
Usually it's used for Z Destiny Bond, exactly, but this might actually be an offensive move here. No, we are seeing the Z Destiny Bond coming out. Maybe he was thinking or trying to hope that the Garchomp would attack, making it so that the Mimikyu would take down the Garchomp with it. By the way, Hail just ran out, but the Aurora Veil is still in place, so it is in fact that Light Clay item as you were hinting at earlier.
Yes, and with that Z Destiny Bond being active until Mimikyu moves again, any Pokemon that attacks it this turn will be going down here. Tapu Fini has revealed Haze, so that means maybe it's locked into that move and will just be repeatedly doing that move. If Garchomp has a spreader type attack that is going to land onto that Mimikyu, it will go down here and will be forcing Simone to lose that very powerful Pokemon in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how exactly Simone was hoping this turn would go down, but with using Haze and also locking himself into it, Alex knows that, of course, he can't set up belly drum, but he can just go for a couple of attacks here with his Snorlax, going for the return, potentially bringing the Garchomp in KO range for an attack from Mimikyu here. And Tapu Fini just sitting on the field, they're going for another Haze, but there wasn't really anything to eliminate anymore. Shadow Ball is coming out. Will it be enough to knock out the Garchomp through the Aurora Veil? It does not seem like it is. Stone Edge missing the Mimikyu though, and Mimikyu is still around here, and Garchomp Stone Edge. I mean, the Mimikyu, we were already writing it off kind of, but now it was able to stick around still, and the Tapu Fini of Simone is just not really contributing anything for him at the moment.
He had so much offensive momentum before dropping that Haze, and now Tapu Fini forced to switch out if it wants to change up its move for later on in the game. Garchomp in a position now where it could be knocked out by a Shadow Ball from this Mimikyu. Snorlax, if Tapu Fini does switch out, has the opportunity to go for a belly drum, but more likely just going to go for, it actually already has the berry once again now, so any damage being dealt will push it back up towards full HP. Simone forced to switch out that Ninetales into the Arcanine, going to drop an Intimidate onto both of the opposing Pokemon. Shadow Ball not affected by that sneaky Ghost and Fairy type Mimikyu, who avoided the Stone Edge last turn. Garchomp forced to protect this turn, doesn't want to be knocked out by any attacks coming out from Alex's side of the field. Return going into that slot, and Mimikyu going for a taunt into that Arcanine now, so would have been able to lock the Tapu Fini down, but it switches into that Arcanine.
Yeah, also now prevents the Arcanine, which is Simone's last Pokemon, so he did not bring the Celesteela, probably fearing Magnezone on Alex's side, and that Celesteela could have been so huge for him, since Alex, already having lost his Arcanine, that the Celesteela could have probably just taken the game and carried for Simone on its own, but now that Arcanine is revealed, that will be a little bit more difficult for him. The Haze play not working out as he wanted it, and now Alex, of course the Snorlax isn't boosted yet, but now Haze is off the field and there is only one turn of Aurora Veil left.
Do you imagine that Garchomp might want to switch out here to avoid being knocked out? Tapu Fini could take a combination of attacks from Alex's side of the field, but if Alex just goes for the belly drum, it might be too much. The return instead coming out though, Garchomp will go down, a little bit of rough skin damage, but this could be the calculation that Alex wanted, taking him down below half HP, activating that Iron Papa Berry one more time. Snorlax eating all the way back up to almost full health here as Garchomp will go down.
And this is also the last turn of Trick Room, so afterwards, even if this Arcanine was able to knock out Mimikyu, for example, Alex will be able to bring out his Nihilego, and then as Aurora Veil will also be over Nihilego in a prime position against Arcanine and Tapu Fini from Simone. So both trainers really playing down to the last options here, down to the last two Pokemon, but it looks like Alex just somehow was able to come back from this deficit that he was suffering from early in the game. Now has the Snorlax and the Nihilego next to each other, and it's like both of them will prove to be very difficult for Simone to knock out.
Yes, we've said it before many times, the Aurora Veil is so scary after you set it up, and especially when it's lasting for so long on the field, your damage calculations go out the window. We see Arcanine was trying to go for a helping hand there, Simone revealing that information a little bit too soon for us, but Nihilego in a position where it's got its pick of who it wants to target, but it has to watch out for protects on that. Oh, sorry, no, it can't because of the taunt. It goes for protect itself. Nihilego doesn't want to take any damage as the extreme speed trying to break that focus sash on the Nihilego. The muddy water going to go into that protect as well. It's going to go into the
Probably hoping for an accuracy drop here is Simone.
You see the
shaking his hands there. Let's see if he gets it. No, he doesn't. Return should be coming out onto the Arcanine potentially. No, just attacking the Tapu Fini. Either way, one of those Pokemon is now in KO range from the Nihilego. We already knew that neither of them could protect that turn. The Tapu Fini, being a choice Specs variant, won't be able to protect from this Nihilego, and both trainers already shaking hands, and Simone cannot be happy with how that battle went after how far ahead or how good his position looked after the first few turns.
Exactly. My mistake, folks. Our Nihilego sash has already been broken. The helping hand will come out from this Tapu Fini, so Simone, even though he has shaken hands here, wanting to get a bit of knowledge on this damage calculation, if it survives this Sludge Bomb. It does not. Alex Gomez, Nihilego, putting in some big Sludge Bombs this game. It gets a Beast Boost for this turn. The helping hand meaning that Tapu Fini can't act here. Arcanine will be taking this return, and with that Beast Boost, Nihilego is ready to run rampant over that Arcanine.
Yeah, very, very well maneuvered by Alex, swapping up his fast mode from Arcanine and Nihilego mid-game into the Snorlax and Mimikyu, and at one point where we had the Snorlax on the field, no boosts, the belly drum that turn, but even if he did, I think with an attacking move, since Alex's Snorlax didn't have the berry at that point in time, he could have been able to stop it right there. So once again, the haze seemed a little bit too ambitious at that point in time, and I'm sure that is one of the things that Simone will try to change for that second game. Also a thing that he could definitely attempt would be to bring that Celesteela, because of the selection of Alex. Sure, he had Arcanine, but his last three Pokemon, Nihilego, Mimikyu, Snorlax, neither of them can match up with Celesteela really well. So I think Celesteela one of the prime options here for Simone for the second game. But on the other hand, Alex also has that Magnezone available, so it's going to be interesting seeing as which Pokemon these two players will pick for the second game.
It was very interesting to see Alex mix up his leads in that first game. Every time he's been on stream, he has revealed that Mimikyu Snorlax at first, and Nihilego proving too powerful for Simone in that first encounter. Maybe if Alex wants to change things up, he could lead that that Mimikyu and that Snorlax option at first, put a lot of early pressure down on the opposing Pokemon. But the Magnezone could play a huge role here. We are in Game 2 of the Pokemon 2018 European International Championships. The crowd is going wild. Alex Gomez in a position to take the championship this game. Simone Sanvito has to answer him here. Marcus, we're just about to see our leads.
And this is it. This might potentially be the very last game if Alex was to win. Simone relying on the same leads, and so does Alex. So we're seeing the Ninetales and Garchomp again for Simone. It did work kind of well in my opinion, but just then, yeah, at the point, as soon as Alex switched to his slower mode, switched to the Mimikyu and Snorlax, it seemed like Simone not able to really capitalize on the advantage that he had played out. So it's going to be interesting because, of course, now with his first turn, really favoring Alex last time, going for the Helping Hand Sludge Bomb into that Ninetales. Though Simone now also knowing that, hey, even if he did that play again, there's a chance that I just take the attack once again, set up Aurora Veil, and he was in an okay position. So Alex, on the other hand, might now want to go for a Flare Blitz instead to secure that KO, or he could try to go after that Garchomp that protected in the first game.
Yeah, this is a 50-50 choice on who he wants to target down. There will be a Helping Hand though, so we know Nihilego is the premier
Really
attacker this turn. Are we going to see the Aurora Veil? We do. So a same turn coming out from both of these trainers thus far. Aurora Veil activating. We know that Ninetales has the Light Clay.
No
Hidden
protect
Power
from the Garchomp, and Alex calls this correctly. Hidden Power into the Garchomp through Aurora Veil. Even with Helping Hand, is able to take this attack. And the Z move is coming out again. Tectonic Rage. No matter which this targets, that Pokemon should go down.
And also Nihilego will have its Focus Sash to take this attack, but the Hail will take it out this next turn. A key Pokemon for Alex would go down here. He got the information for the Game 3 if he wants it. Nihilego will be the target here, so Nihilego being removed by Simone, a great adjustment for him. And Alex trying to get that knockout early doors, but it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and even though this time around, it's kind of interesting, because for both games, Alex kind of made the correct play, or attacked the right Pokemon at least in this first turn, but both times it kind of also worked out for Simone, because his Pokemon are just so bulky thanks to the Aurora Veil. He could take the Helping Hand Sludge Bomb with the Ninetales, and also the Helping Hand Hidden Power Ice on Garchomp. Now, Alex is a trainer that opts to go with the Focus Sash on his Nihilego for a little bit more survivability and a little bit more consistency. Other trainers in the past have opted for the Life Orb, and with that Life Orb boost, both of those calculations would have gone a lot differently, but Simone really using this information to his advantage and beefing up his Pokemon with that Aurora Veil, really helping him out so far.
Losing a key attacker on his side of the field, that Nihilego going down here. Mimikyu coming in its place. Does have the Disguise ability still active. If it takes a Blizzard from this Ninetales, that will be broken. Garchomp switching out, removing that Intimidate that it received from the Arcanine. And Celesteela, a huge threat for Simone now. So defensive anyway, behind an Aurora Veil, even worse for Alex to be able to deal with. Snorlax coming in, as Mimikyu is more than likely going to go for a Trick Room this turn. We see the Blizzard coming out from the Ninetales. Very smart targeting from Simone to break a Disguise on that Mimikyu. Snorlax taking a fair amount of damage. Are we going to see any freezes here? The Mimikyu's disguise does bust. The Mimikyu goes for the Trick Room as well, and now Celesteela in a really prime position to knock out the Mimikyu if it wants to, or start getting some leech seeds onto that Snorlax.
Yeah, interesting choice here by both Alex and by Simone in a way. So Simone, even though knowing that he had Celesteela in the back and probably anticipating the Mimikyu and the Snorlax to be in the back of his opponent, decided to go after the Nihilego instead of the Arcanine. Arcanine now the last remaining member on Alex's team that can really do a lot of damage to the Celesteela, and there was an opportunity for Simone to pick up that KO on the first turn and take that out of consideration. And Alex, on the other hand, he just went with the exact same Pokemon again, probably hoping that just the Magnezone's presence in the team preview would be enough to get Simone away from using Celesteela, but he has brought it anyway, really taking a risk there in a way, but it has paid off so far at least.
Smart switch, bringing in that Arcanine. It resists both the opposing Pokemon, as Snorlax will protect itself, so it won't be taking any damage, or an Encore should it go for that belly drum. Simone might want to go for that play later on in the match. Heavy Slam being taken by this Arcanine extremely well due to the Intimidate and the Resist here. Ninetales does reveal that Encore, but to your point, Marcus, of getting rid of that Nihilego, it was such a big presence in that first game. Maybe this is an indication that Simone has Tapu Fini in the back. He brought the same Pokemon once again. That combination of Garchomp and Tapu Fini, very, very good at dealing with Arcanine.
Yes, that could definitely be the case. And then his also, maybe he wanted to get rid of the Nihilego for his Arcanine. Like, either way, of course, getting rid of the Nihilego, very, very nice. But now we're here in a situation where this Arcanine proves to be very problematic for Simone. First of all, Arcanine can now really do a lot of damage to Ninetales with Flare Blitz, prevent it from using Encore potentially, depending on how this damage calculation works out, but also, of course, threatening that Celesteela with its super effective Fire-type attacks. So very calculated and safe switch coming out from Alex, and Simone, of course, does not want to take so much damage yet.
Speaking of switches, Tapu Fini will be switching in.
So that is indeed the last Pokemon of Simone.
Will threaten that Arcanine for future turns as the Misty Surge activates. Return coming out from that Snorlax, fearing the option of that Encore. Ninetales taking a lot of damage. Will-O-Wisp going onto that Tapu Fini, but the Misty Terrain protects it. Encore being revealed onto that Snorlax once again. It is locked into Return now, so it will not be able to boost its stats, meaning it can only do some mediocre damage whilst under this Aurora Veil and waste some Trick Room turns, more importantly for Simone.
Yeah, very nice switch in here with the Tapu Fini, not only because due to the Misty Terrain he did not get burned, but also now posing so much offensive pressure against that Arcanine with the Choice Specs boosted Muddy Water potentially, while also chipping the Snorlax in the process. We've already now seen that Encore. Of course, being locked into Return isn't that bad as long as your HP number is great, but at some point Snorlax definitely might want to use the Protect or Recycle. So if Simone can use the turns that now Snorlax is forced to attack to kind of lower its damage, and then after Trick Room is over, take the KO. And for Alex, on the other hand, he can't really afford to switch out Snorlax right now, bring in the Mimikyu, and then switch it back in Snorlax, because he only has a limited amount of turns here for the Snorlax to do damage on the Trick Room.
Yes, and this is the thing. Now the Trick Room is being wasted by the such heavy defensive setup from this Ninetales, Tapu Fini being so bulky as well, and throwing out the opportunity to have Muddy Waters should it so wish. Could be a big trouble for Alex. He's just going to launch a helping hand onto his Snorlax though. Return going into that Tapu Fini slot, hitting it on its weakest physical defense side, taking it to just above half HP here. The Snorlax avoids the Muddy Water,
but he hits the correct target.
Yes, and this could be huge damage going onto that Arcanine. It does go down here. Simone Sanvito taking another key knockout. Nihilego and Arcanine both being removed. Mimikyu and Snorlax being left on the field as Blizzard comes out. No protect from that Snorlax due to the Encore. The Eye Papillary will pop once again, and Simone Sanvito really just relying on these spread-type damage attacks. Mimikyu will come in here, but it has to weather both a Muddy Water and a Blizzard.
Yeah, and also relying on that Aurora Veil. Really, really well played so far here by Simone in the second game. He didn't even need the Celesteela. Just a little bit better maneuvering in Trick Room, utilizing his Tapu Fini now. Also the Ninetales with the Encore. Now, this is probably, in my opinion, at least a better way of stopping that belly drum. Locking the Tapu Fini with haste was a cute idea in the first game, but in the end it really didn't work out. So now he's decided to using Encore on the Ninetales, which also, of course, stops the belly drum setup.
Exactly, and we see how much pressure that first turn has given Simone Sanvito. An opportunity for him. He managed to allow himself to get an advantage over Alex in Pokemon and also in offensive pressure. The defensive moves that the Ninetale offers allows him to be able to work in and out of Trick Room much more comfortably and threaten so much damage on his turn. He's already locked in his move, but Alex having to think really hard here. The Return coming out once again into that Tapu Fini, gonna take it down just outside the red zone as the Muddy Water misses the Mimikyu, but does target down that Snorlax. It's very has been consumed now, so this damage should last for a little while longer, and we're going to see a Z move coming out. It will be the Mimikyu going for that Z Destiny Bond once again. If it is knocked out by a Blizzard, the Ninetales will go down too.
Yeah, but there's also the hail is over, and Ninetales' damage output isn't as high here, so I think the Destiny Bond probably a little bit more for the next turn, so that if Mimikyu went down, then it would help. But Mimikyu once again avoiding that Blizzard here. But now the way with that Z Destiny Bond, Alex has set him up in a way that now he can go for a Trick Room with the Mimikyu and either gets up the Trick Room or he gets to take something with it, because the Mimikyu will still be under the effect of the Destiny Bond.
Yes, and Simone might want to start thinking about removing that Ninetales from the field to be able to get that hail back up and allow him to target those two Pokemon very effectively in future turns. He has the opportunity to go into Celesteela should he so wish, because it does threaten so much damage onto that Mimikyu and onto that Snorlax. He can also disrupt with Leech Seed if he wants to.
Yeah, we can also just see an Encore coming out from the Ninetales though. That Simone decides to swap it out, bring in the Celesteela, and yeah, now with that Celesteela on the field, it really seems difficult to imagine that Alex can win this game. We're seeing the taunt coming out, okay, coming out on that Celesteela there, preventing it from any Leech Seeders, and maybe that was a prediction here coming out on Alex's side, but Simone's Muddy Water this time connecting with the Mimikyu as well as the Snorlax, getting a Accuracy drop as well.
Oh wow, so that could be huge here in the later parts of the game as Snorlax goes for another return. It does knock out the Tapu Fini here, so Alex is slowly getting his way into a Pokemon balance here. The equilibrium would be restored should he knock out another Pokemon, but the Encore ending here could be huge for this Snorlax if it is able to survive the turns. We see the Ninetales once again. We could be seeing another Encore here into that return just to stop the Snorlax from getting that berry back.
Yeah, Simone could also Encore that Mimikyu into Taunt and then ensure that Heavy Slam from Celesteela gets that KO here. There's not really too much that Alex can do for him preventing that. Both of his Pokemon significantly hurt, and yeah, Simone's Celesteela on its own would probably be able to take on the Mimikyu and also really threaten away that Snorlax once the Taunt wore off. But now Simone really switching up his strategy a little bit, still relying on the Aurora Veil, but playing it way better in the under the Trick Room, really stopping Alex there from playing out his strategy, and it looks like Simone is just a couple more turns away from equalizing the series.
There goes the Encore. It is into that Snorlax, so Simone is saying, okay, no more berries for you, no more protects, no more recycles, as that Shadow Ball goes into the Alolan Ninetales now, doing very small amounts of damage. The Heavy Slam going down onto that Mimikyu, so Simone really operating his game plan well here, leaving Snorlax on its own and in a position now where it doesn't have access to that berry. Celesteela gets its Beast Boost. It will be in defense, and this is so hard for Alex to be able to come back.
And actually, something that I've heard yesterday was that a defense boosting Celesteela has never won a championship. It looks like Simone will only be one game away from changing that right here, whereas Alex, of course, is still trying to go for Tapu Bulu, which hasn't made an appearance in this finals though.
We've got so many opportunities for new faces to take a European International Championship. Snorlax heavily threatened again by this Celesteela. We saw that all-important Aurora Veil end this last turn for Simone, but he's in a position where he can just launch a Blizzard and a Heavy Slam to threaten this Snorlax once again. We see that Blizzard now. Snorlax taking so much damage due to being single target with Mimikyu off the field. Heavy Slam will clean up the extras here as we get Snorlax off the field with a critical hit.
Yeah, and that will be it for the second game. Simone really coming. The risk of attacking the Ninetales is, of course, that if Ninetales switched into Celesteela and Garchomp went for an Earthquake, that could be so bad. Of course, you would get the Flablets off on Celesteela, which would be nice, obviously, but Earthquake knocking out Nihilego in combination with the Hail and also doing so much damage to Arcanine. I'm not sure if Alex could afford that. So another option for Alex might also be to switch something up about his leads, because it looks like Simone, with that Ninetales and Garchomp lead, he really came up with something that can pressure the Nihilego and the Arcanine, despite the fact that it looks like with that Helping Hand and the Sludge Bomb and Hidden Power Ice, it looks like Nihilego might have all the tools necessary, but with how Simone has calculated and trained his Pokemon specifically potentially for a situation like this, it really works out in his favor so far at least.
If we see the same leads this third time, there are going to be so many mind games to talk through about that first turn. Another option that we could see from Alex, he saw how dangerous Celesteela and Tapu Fini were. Magnezone could be a big deal here.
Yes.
But then Garchomp becomes an even bigger problem in case he brings his own Arcanine or his Nihilego. So many ways that these Pokemon match up. We are going to bring you this third game of the Pokemon 2018 European International Championships. One apiece between Simone Sanvito and Alex Gomez. Who is going to be your next European International Champion. The crowd is going wild. Let's see who it's going to be.
Definitely, I am so excited as the Pokeballs are thrown out. It is going to be Ninetales and Garchomp once again for Simone, and we are seeing Nihilego and Arcanine once again from Alex. So both of them seemingly want to stick to what they were using in the previous 2 games, and as you were saying, the mind games are real here.
I've kind of got sweaty hands, Marcus. I'm not even playing this game, and I don't know how to deal with this situation. Both of these players know there are so many options available to them to out-damage each other or be able to survive this turn as well. And Simone hasn't done the switch that you mentioned before, that Celesteela coming in. If he does it into that Ninetale slot this turn and Earthquakes, as you mentioned, it could be disastrous for Alex here. Alex really has to weigh up his options, because either way, he's not getting a key knockout, and Simone is always winning this encounter by getting that Aurora Veil up and doing well with his Garchomp.
Yeah, the Aurora Veil proving so well in both the first and the second game, so maybe just sticking to that is what Simone wants to do. He already has confirmation that the Garchomp can take the Helping Hand Hidden Power Ice, and that the Ninetales could also take a single Sludge Bomb, so Alex would really need to commit to knock out the Ninetales right here, and even after that, Aurora Veil would still be intact, Garchomp would be able to get off an attack, and then he would have a free switch in. So Alex changing up his play here, switching out the Nihilego immediately and going into the Mimikyu.
We saw how important that knockout was in the first turn. Garchomp is going to protect here, fearing that Hidden Power Ice. Aurora Veil going up for Simone one more time. Not changing up the strategy there, and why should you? It's such a powerful move, boosting both your physical and your special defense. Will-O-Wisp going into the Garchomp slot, so Alex showing some adaptations that he wants to make here.
Yeah, of course that Arcanine could have attacked into that Ninetales, doing lots of damage with Flare Blitz, but then the recoil and the hail would really also add up on the Arcanine, potentially bringing it into KO range for a Blizzard and Earthquake combination later on. So maybe just going for the Will-O-Wisp here, a safe play kinda by Alex, who was probably hoping that we would see that Tectonic Rage coming into the Nihilegos, and once again, I would be surprised if Alex was like thinking, oh, maybe Simone switches up lead, so I'll just try to go with the Nihilego again, but instead I think he really had this planned out, thought that, hey, my opponent now knows that the Garchomp will be able to take the Helping Hand Hidden Power Ice, so there's no reason for Simone's Garchomp to not go for a strong attack, but Simone, able to look through that, just decided to go for the protected the Garchomp from the Will-O-Wisp, and also didn't waste the Z move into the Disguise.
Very smart turn from Simone as he switches out his brings in his Tapu Fini for that Garchomp. It does have that choice specs. We have seen that confirmed. Misty Surge will activate here, so no more Will-O-Wisps coming out. Blizzard is going to be coming out from that. Ninetales, though, will break the Disguise on the Mimikyu and get a little bit of chip damage onto that Arcanine. The important thing is that Disguise is going down here. Mimikyu's Disguise just falling over slightly. The Will-O-Wisp again coming out from Alex's side of the field, getting the Trick Room up here, but not getting that key Will-O-Wisp onto that Garchomp. And with the defense boost from this Aurora Veil, he does need to find a way to be able to mitigate damage to be able to outlast it.
Yeah, clever play there by Alex, not really risking too much. With Will-O-Wisp, he was covering for a potential Sword Dance even from that Garchomp, knowing that if that was to stay in on the field, the Will-O-Wisp would be really important there. But now that the Tapu Fini switched in, it also meant that Garchomp wasn't going to attack. So yeah, of course Ninetale with a Blizzard doing a little bit of chip damage here, but yeah, both the Mimikyu as well as the Arcanine still looking there strong, and now Trick Room was set up for Alex, meaning that his Snorlax that we expect to be in the back there could still, yeah, come in on the field probably right now, and there it is. And yeah, once again Alex will probably try to set up that belly drum, but is Simone going to let him do that?
Yes, and the Snorlax coming in, it does not take any damage from that attack. There's a miss coming out as the Ghostium Z will activate on that Mimikyu. It's going to be another Z Destiny Bond, or maybe he might even go for an offensive move this time, but no, that is a very powerful Z move coming out from this Mimikyu. If it does get knocked out in the upcoming turns, it will be taking something down with it as the Blizzard comes out from Ninetales, going into that Mimikyu, taking it down to just above half HP. The Hail will take it onto the halfway mark.
Yeah, so with that Z Destiny Bond now, usually you use it really for the redirection, but due to the fact that Simone, both his Pokemon can really use those multi-spread moves with the Blizzard and also Muddy Water potentially, it really looks like in this game at least the Destiny Bond, the Z move, not as powerful as it usually is. And now since Trick Room was already set up, it looks like Mimikyu has a little bit of a hard time of forcing his opponent to attack it. So Simone, if he had the option, could also try to just leave the Mimikyu hanging around here for yet another turn. And with how the speed tiers match up, the Ninetales also would attack after the Mimikyu under Trick Room, meaning that Mimikyu would need to do another move, and then that way the effect of Destiny Bond would change. So there is a chance that Alex wants to go for the Trick Room right here, meaning that Mimikyu would move last, and therefore Alex's Mimikyu could go down to an attack from the Ninetales with still having the Destiny Bond in effect.
But we see the knockout here on the Mimikyu, the Muddy Water taking it down, and there goes Tapu Fini as well. The Destiny Bond activating and removing it from the field. Snorlax not taking any damage due to the Protect and not taking an Encore either. Simone really putting the pressure to that Snorlax once again with that Encore.
Yeah, so finally Alex was able to really use that Destiny Bond play and taking out Tapu Fini from Simone's team, very important. The Ninetales, of course, can do a little bit of damage with Blizzard, but Hail will run out at some point, and Simone will really be limited in his offensive capabilities there.
And we see the switch-ins now. Arcanine coming in will again get the Intimidate down onto the opposing Garchomp, which will have one stage of decreased physical attack, but we haven't seen the Z move from Simone's side of the field, and Arcanine is a prime target for that.
Yeah, Simone really saving that Z move there in the first turn. Very well played on his end, and now this could come back to haunt Alex a little bit, that his opponent kind of saw through his bluff there with the Mimikyu switch in, because now a Tectonic Rage could really do a lot of damage to Arcanine, and the Misty Terrain is still on the field. Arcanine cannot go for the Will-O-Wisp, and I also don't think that there's any way for Alex to knock out the Garchomp this turn, so if Simone wanted, he could just go ahead and attack. There's only a couple more turns left from under Trick Room, and after that Simone will be the one with a speed advantage.
Especially with the Encore threat as well. If Snorlax once again goes for that return, and it kind of has to here because the Encore threat is so high from this Ninetales, a combination of return and Flare Blitz may not even be enough to knock it out, but Simone just leaving the Ninetales in his party now as he brings in that Arcanine. It will get its own Intimidate off onto the opposing Arcanine, onto that Snorlax once again, and this could be a huge turn as we see Arcanine protecting herself, not wanting to take a Tectonic Rage should it be coming out here. The Garchomp will be removing after this Snorlax, the return going into that slot. What will this Garchomp do? It is going to be so pivotal to this matchup. The Rough Skin going onto the Snorlax, and a Swords Dance! Simone Sanvito putting in the work here. That is a stage of increased attack already now, and Arcanine protecting itself that turn means the Z move is more and more viable, especially with the range that Snorlax is at on its HP. It could be going down to a Tectonic Rage here as well.
Yeah, very well played there by Simone, getting that Sword Dance, but something that also happened this turn was that Simone reeled his last Pokemon. It is that Arcanine. He did not bring Celesteela, meaning that now if he had the Celesteela, I think we could be well on the way of calling him our new champion here, but that Arcanine has a little bit of a rougher time due to the fact that Simone at the end of the battle might still have to face that Nihilego that is still waiting in the back for Alex, and Celesteela would have been a prime candidate of taking that down, but with Arcanine this might be a little more difficult. Alex, of course, knowing that, now kind of using the turns under Trick Room that he still has, but also trying to stall it out so that in the end his Nihilego can then come in and really take out that Garchomp. Aurora Veil though will also have to run out, so Alex really taking it slow. They're going for a Protect on that Snorlax, Flare Blitz using it into the Garchomp, so that he's already thinking about later in the game where the Nihilego will have to come in and use Hidden Power Ice to get that knockout, and that Garchomp proved to be so difficult to take out earlier. We will see Earthquake come out, that will knock out the Arcanine on Alex's side, but then the Nihilego will be able to come in and threaten that Garchomp with that Hidden Power Ice.
Yes, a very, very smart play from Alex here to chip the Garchomp into range. Arcanine does go down to that Earthquake. Snorlax protecting itself very well here, and no threat of an Encore this time because Ninetales is no longer on the field as Trick Room ends. Nihilego, one of the saviors of Alex's game in the first round here of this finals, is back on the field. Its Focus Sash is intact, so a combination of attacks would have to come out to knock out this Nihilego, but it does outspeed that Garchomp. It has Hidden Power Ice. Garchomp has the opportunity to protect here or even switch out, but with the amount of boosts it has that one stage of increased attack. It might want to stay on the field. Arcanine also heavily threatened by a combination of return and the Power Gem from this Nihilego. There could be a key knockout being made by Alex's turn.
Yeah, and there's only 2 more turns of Aurora Veil, meaning that even if he protected this turn, Alex wouldn't be able to stall it out. So he has to attack the Pokemon of his opponent under the effect of Aurora Veil, which is of course what Simone wants, because if Garchomp was able to take that Hidden Power Ice, he could then fire back with its own Z move if he wanted to get a knockout here and there, or maybe just go for another Earthquake, and there is the Hidden Power. This is so important.
Hidden Power
Will
Ice.
It be enough to KO the Garchomp?
It is not!
It is not! Garchomp hangs in there. And the Z move is coming out. Tectonic Rage will either hit the Snorlax or the Nihilego. Both of them will take a lot of damage. If it is in the Snorlax, do you think it could take it?
It's in range. It has to be in range, and this is something that Simone must have been planning for so long. That Snorlax just outside of Berry activation range. We see it going to the Nihilego though, so we could be seeing a double up this turn as Nihilego being taken down here. It's going to be in that lava explosion, surviving the attack though with 1 HP. Its Focus Sash has activated now. Arcanine using Flare Blitz. If this goes into the Nihilego, a key member of Alex's side of the field will go down, but Snorlax takes it instead. The yellow HP range for Snorlax now as the berry pops one more time, but Simone Sanvito has the opportunity for a priority attack into that Nihilego to knock it out. The return going onto that from that Snorlax onto the Garchomp picks up a knockout. Snorlax taking a little bit of rough skin damage here, but maybe Simone has done enough.
Yeah, Simone, with that Ninetales in the back, it will be able to outspeed the Nihilego and also set up the hail, so there's really no escape here for Nihilego from Alex, and it looks like his only hope at this point in time is that Snorlax, but we've already seen Encore on the Ninetales, so even if Snorlax, it's one of those situations that I was describing before that happens with Porygon 2 occasionally, where it's so difficult for Simone to really do a lot of damage to the Snorlax, but Snorlax also won't be able to do enough back because it will have to keep on recycling, but maybe if Alex is able to wait until the hail is over again, until Ninetales will not be able to use Blizzard anymore, so that maybe he can still make a comeback there somehow, but that Encore is really what shifts things in Simone's favor.
Yes, if he locks out of being able to use that recycle, Snorlax will not have a way to be able to recover its health. And now Arcanine with the extreme speed will knock out that Nihilego. So Alex down to his final Pokemon here as Nihilego goes down to the extreme speed. Ninetales goes for that Encore, locking Snorlax into that return. It can only attack in future turns. Simone maybe have done enough now. Snorlax goes for that return into the Ninetales. Going to be taking it down a little bit there. Only about a quarter of its HP done in damage. And now Flare Blitz from this Arcanine will be able to chip it down below half HP. The Aurora Veil wearing off here could work out some damage calculations for Alex, but with the double target options, Blizzard is going to be 100% accurate because of the hail. Flare Blitz from this Arcanine. Simone must be almost able to taste that championship, Marcus.
Yeah, I think it looks like he's done it, bringing down Alex to his last and final Pokemon, that's Snorlax, the Nihilego, despite the fact that with its typing really matching up so well against Simone's team. In the end, that Ninetales proving, but he will probably just thaw it out right there with the Flare Blitz. But either way, both players shaking hands, they know it, Flare Blitz is coming out, is enough to get the KO on Snorlax with a critical hit, and Simone Sanvito is going to be your champion.
Pokemon 2018 European International Champion Simone Sanvito.